In the epic of World War II, some stories are unknown, but they should be remembered. These stories not only reveal the cruelty of war, but also show the warmish kindness in human nature. Today, we will explore a touching story that happened on the first day of the landing in Normandy. 2 soldiers in the gunfire saved 81 lives. Back to June 6, 1944. This historic moment is called the Day of the Land. The Allies launched a large-scale landing in Normandy, France. In a small village in Normandy, France, a young American soldier, Kenneth Moller, was landing on a grassland full of fire. His helmet was marked with a bright red cross, symbolizing his mission. The gunfire around him was like thunder. Kenneth Moller ran to the village in front of him, without hesitation, because he knew he was needed there. After entering the village, Kenneth Moller saw a church in front of him. The red cross marked in front of the door made him happy. He rushed into the church and found another military doctor, Robert White, kneeling before the church and praying. Robert saw Kenneth coming in and immediately stood up and approached him. After a while, they confirmed each other's identity and mission. At this moment, the church has become their temporary military hospital. Although it is simple, it is the only refuge for wounded people. Suddenly, the gate of the church was opened, and 2 soldiers covered in blood came in. Robert and Kenneth immediately began to work in a tense way. They only had medical bags and small-sized ambulances with them, and they were short of supplies, but they still did their best. The gunfire outside the church was intensifying, and the Germans had been forced into the village. The fierce battle made them unable to take care of their own safety, and the casualties were heavy. As a doctor, Kenneth could not sit idly by. After thinking for a moment, he finally made a bold decision. He rushed out of the church gate, found an old wheelbarrow, and rushed to the battlefield. So he used this wheelbarrow to pull a merchant to the church. One time, when he pushed a merchant back, a German soldier aimed at him with a rifle in the air. But when he saw the red cross mark on Kenneth's helmet and arm, he withheld the bullet. Kenneth took the merchant back to the church without any damage, and Robert continued to be busy in the church, only to keep sending back the merchant. As time passed, there were more and more merchants in the church. At 10 p.m., Kenneth pushed the gate again, only to see that this time he brought back a German soldier. At this moment, the atmosphere in the church instantly solidified, and everyone's eyes were focused on him. But Kenneth didn't explain anything. He put the German soldier on a long stool, and Robert helped him without hesitation. Kenneth and Robert are not divided in the enemy camp. As long as they are wounded, they will do their best to save them. Although others were doubtful, they didn't say anything when they saw the 2 soldiers. The fighting outside the church lasted all night, and gunshots were heard. At night, the gate of the church was suddenly opened again, and a German soldier rushed in with a rifle. A panic looked at the wounded in the church. When he saw several German soldiers injured, he slowly put down his weapon, slipped across, and left silently. Robert breathed a sigh, realizing that he had to put all the weapons in the church away to avoid misunderstanding. So he and Kenneth put the weapons in the church to ensure it became a truly safe area. The next day, a United States military officer came to the church to inform Kenneth and Robert that the United States military was about to retreat and could not bring any wounded. If the 2 wanted to live, they had to retreat with the troops. Kenneth and Robert looked at each other and firmly told the officer, "We will stay here." Their decision was not only brave, but even self-sacrificing. But they knew that as doctors, no matter who was in front of them, whether they were enemies or soldiers, they all lived in different clothes. Not long after, the German army reoccupied the village and began to bring more wounded people to the church for treatment. The church was full of wounded people, including American and German soldiers. Some of them could only lie on the floor, and the wounded could only be settled near the church. When German soldiers arrived, Robert also strongly demanded that they put down their weapons. This soldier not only did not get angry, but also promised to provide them with supplies and medical supplies. At this moment, the church has become a holy place of human glory, and it does not discriminate against me. At noon, the United States military launched an attack again, wanting to retake the village. The cruel war began again. Kenneth and Robert continued to risk their lives to pull the wounded to the church. The soldiers on both sides saw 2 shadows wandering on the battlefield. The wounded being transported by the unit stopped the attack, allowing them to pass safely. The war continued for several hours. In the end, the United States military succeeded in taking back the village again, but the German army did not give up. They retreated while attacking with machine guns. Suddenly, a machine gun flew to the church, and the gun hit the window and struck the ground of the church. At this moment, everyone held their breath, but the miracle was that the gun did not explode, it just smashed a piece of the floor. The robot was hit by the gun, so he took a deep breath and quickly threw the gun out of the window to continue rescuing the wounded. After the end of the battle, the United States military recontrolled the village, and the United States military officer told Robert that he wanted to treat the church as a frontline resort, but Robert strongly refused. This is the last shelter for the wounded. Robert absolutely did not allow the wounded to die on the battlefield. During these 3 days and 2 nights, Kenneth and Robert treated more than 80 wounded, not including me, showing the kindest side of human nature. The church is still there today. The long bench still retains the blood from that year. The floor that was smashed by the firecrackers has not been replaced. The colored glass window commemorates the courage and kindness of the 2 medical soldiers. After the death of Robert White, some of his ashes were buried in this church.